The views and opinions heard on this show do not necessarily reflect the views of the host.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Real Spiritual Talk Radio.
My breathing had stopped for so long that my heart actually ended up stopping.
You saw what I did. You said that I was going to die.
And then I remember being gone. I wasn't there anymore.
I sort of lifted up about 6 feet above my body.
A pinprick of light appeared and came rushing toward me faster than the speed of light.
And then this light, all of a sudden it was all completely around me.
He says, I am God. Yes, I am real.
The main message was loving yourself and loving others.
It was clearly shown to me.
It was really hard to put into words. It felt like I had been there before.
It was just this very personal, impersonal, unconditional love.
Welcome back to another edition of Real Spiritual Talk Radio. I am your host, Lamont Gates, bringing you once again the world of faith, metaphysicality, and spirituality. Today, my guest received the warning of a lifetime, literally, but ended up also receiving a type of healing of a lifetime beyond her expectations. Let's get it started. Ladies and gentlemen, joining me via telephone is near-death experiencer Tracy Ann. Tracy, welcome to Real Spiritual Talk Radio.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Glad to have you here indeed. Now, concerning your account, which I understand you are having or have had concerns about whether or not it was a hallucination or a near-death experience, hopefully we can address all of that here, but I do understand that your account was recently published on a near-death experience group site, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So was that your first time revealing your near-death experience?
No, I've revealed it to some other people. I haven't talked a great deal about it. I've just revealed it to a few other people in the past.
Excellent. And we will get into your account, but first, I like to build context around near-death experiences. Why don't you tell us about your introductory into religion and or spirituality? What did you learn or believe as a child about this particular subject?
Well, I was baptized. We didn't really come from a church-going family. I wasn't really raised very religious. I think in retrospect, my dad was atheist, to be honest. My mom was, I wouldn't say she was religious. I would say she was more spiritual, and that's kind of how I came to it. I went through the whole gamut. I was atheist for a while, and then I had some experiences that made me more spiritual, but I wouldn't say I'm religious. In the end, I believed in an afterlife. I believe in God. I believe in Jesus. But I also believe that, there's more than one path to God. I'm tolerant of other religions also.
Now, when you say you went from being an atheist to becoming more spiritual via spiritual experiences, what experiences are you referring to?
Well, I think the near-death experience or whatever it was kind of steered me in that direction, because after that it was pretty profound. It kind of shook me up a bit and made me realize that perhaps we're not alone.
So, in other words, you were an atheist for a long time then, at least from childhood to your adulthood.
Pretty much, I would say up through about young adulthood, yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the experience. Rather, let's start from what led to it.
Yeah. Well, I was going through a very painful divorce at the time. My husband basically used me and abandoned me and left the country, and I was all alone and going through quite a lot of pain. And I became very, very depressed. I became very suicidal, and one night I decided to overdose. And I don't know how I did it, but I managed to call my best friend, and she came to my place and took me to the hospital. And they didn't pump my stomach. I overdosed on pills. I was basically just lying there, and she was running around looking for a doctor. They kind of didn't really pay a lot of attention to me. I'm not sure why that was the case. but I was in and out of consciousness while I was lying there. And I sensed this kind of presence. I don't think it was God. Maybe it was a spirit guide. I'm not really sure what it was, but it was very unhappy with me. And it was showing me pictures of dead bodies, kind of like the old films of the concentration camps, just the bodies lying on top of one another. And they basically said to me, if you continue on the path that you're going, this is how you're going to end up, or you can choose life. It's up to you. And this really shook me. It was like a cosmic 2x4 to the head. So I basically said, okay, I'll choose life, you know. And then I kind of came to, and that was basically the experience.
Wow. Talk about an ultimatum. What happened afterwards when you came back from this? Did you immediately tell someone, or did you hold off out of fear?
I was pretty shaken up. I eventually, what happened was I was hospitalized after that in a psychiatric hospital. And when I got out, I stayed with my parents for a while, and I ended up telling my mom about it. It wasn't something where I woke up and immediately told people about it. I don't think I even told my friend at the time what I had been through. But my mom was very understanding of it. You know, because like I said, she's more of a spiritual person, and you know, she was very understanding about it.
As mentioned at the beginning of the show, I also understand that you may have thought that this may have been a hallucination of some sort. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'm not really sure, because I went from severely depressed to manic. I have bipolar disorder. I went into a manic phase a few weeks after that, and I'm not really sure. That's why I say maybe it was a hallucination, because when I'm manic, I do hallucinate. Hear things, see things, that sort of thing. So that's why I was kind of on the fence, and I wasn't really sure what it was.
Now, did doctors ever indicate to you that you may have coded, or mention to you that you may have been clinically dead for several minutes or so?
No, nobody told me. I don't remember having much interaction with the doctor at all. I think a doctor came in at one point, but it was kind of fleeting. And like I said, I was in and out of consciousness, so I wasn't really aware of what was going on for the most part.
The reason why I bring this up is because I know you and I spoke behind the scenes a bit about near-death experiences versus hallucinations. And although you may have had doubts of it being spiritual, you did at least post it on a near-death experience site, which shows that you probably came around to it being more spiritual. But from what I can gather about the differences between the two, is that a near-death experience allows your consciousness to remain lucid, okay? There is also coherence, and more specifically in your case, a tailored message about something happening currently in your life. For example, if I were to ask you, when you saw those images of what appeared to be Holocaust bodies piled up, do you believe it had anything to do with you attempting to take yourself out of this physicalist realm?
Yeah, I believe they were kind of taking me and shaking me cosmically and saying, you know, you're here for a purpose. Your life has purpose. Your life has meaning. Don't do this. I think that's what they were trying to tell me.
Exactly. Whereas a hallucination is incoherent, almost like a bad dream where delta waves allow your brain to stitch any kind of past memories together without a meaningful message. Unless there is a reason for a 5-legged witch in your life, for example. Now, you say you've become more spiritual. You've also incorporated Jesus into your after account. How did this come about?
Just after that experience, I felt a lot different about life. Before then, I kind of dreaded getting up every day. It was just very black and bleak. And after that experience, it kind of opened me up to other possibilities. You know, I began to see that we're not alone in this universe, and that there really is something beyond all this, and that's kind of how my attitude changed.
I also saw that after you posted your account to this near-death experience group, you received a lot of support in the comment section. However, there was a commenter who wasn't so supportive, which will take me into my next topic of near-death experience interpretations.
Well, it was kind of unfortunate. I posted it just, you know, basically relaying the experience and asking people, what do you think? You know, because the group has so much positivity and love in it, I thought I'd get a good response. But there was one individual who was basically trying to tell me that I was inferring that mentally ill people go to hell and mentally ill people are defective when I wasn't saying any such thing. And, when she talked a little bit longer, I learned that she lost a daughter to mental illness, which of course is very unfortunate. But, I was trying to tell her that that's not what I was saying. I wasn't saying, that mentally ill people somehow are punished and go to hell. That wasn't my intention at all.
Yes, and I think that when a lot of people do not hear about light, love, seeing deceased relatives playing in the field, they may sometimes interpret the experience as hell. There is a book by an author, however, by the name of Nancy Evans Bush called Dancing Past Dark. It's about hellish near-death experiences, and one of the points she argues in it is that people may misinterpret an experience as being hellish when, if they stop to think about what is really happening in the experience, they'd realize it wasn't hellish at all. In your case, it was a message to prevent you from permanently leaving this realm rather than where you were going afterward. So this person who commented so negatively upon your post completely misinterpreted your case.
Yeah, I didn't feel that it was hellish. It was more like somebody trying to wake me up and say, look, this isn't what you want to do.
Exactly. So many people say they return from a near-death experience, which I think we've pretty much established here that this is what that was. They say they typically return with a sixth sense of some sort or after effects. Would you say anything is different about you since you returned?
No, I didn't really get a sixth sense off it. I've always been a little bit empathic and been able to pick up on other people's emotions before they open their mouth. But I don't think that this experience brought new abilities to me or anything like that. It was just a change in attitude more than anything else.
I know you said your father was an atheist. I was wondering if he was still in your life at the time. Were you able to express your experience to him? And if so, what was his reaction?
I lost him 15 years ago. He died suddenly and pretty young. I don't think he was really receptive to it. It was more my mom that was understanding about it. Because I think he kind of went back and forth. Maybe he was more agnostic than atheistic. I'm not quite sure, because toward the end of his life, he would ask my mom questions about religion and the Bible and stuff like that. But, like I said, he was never religious. I think he was kind of struggling and questioning, because I don't think he believed in an afterlife or anything of that nature. So, but it was more my mom that was available to listen to me after I had this experience.
Now, going back to spirituality, Jesus, God, etc., did you ever turn to organized religion after all of this?
No, not at all. My grandmother, my mom's mom, was extremely religious, and I just found it very off-putting. I don't go to church, but, like I said, I do have a belief that there is an afterlife. I believe in angels. I believe in God, that sort of thing. So.
And unfortunately, many churches, conservative ones at least, have no interest in near-death experiences. They may preach God, they may preach heaven, they may preach an afterlife, but when someone like yourself approaches them saying, yes, I died and I saw exactly what you saw, the dogma immediately kicks in and the response is, no, that's impossible.
Yeah.
You can't win. And likewise, though, many people return from near-death experiences and leave churches if they were a part of one in the first place, because, as you stated, they've become more spiritual, and church and many of the earthly religions just can't seem to grasp that.
Yeah, exactly. I just, I tried going to church off and on through the years, and I didn't feel like I really fit in. I felt like it was a little bit confining, and I just, I seemed like I was more open-minded than what they were talking about there. So,
in terms of your depression diagnosis, how have you been managing this since your experience?
Well, it snapped me out of the depression, definitely. I had kind of a hard manic episode after that. I was in and out of the hospital for a while. I deal with depression off and on, but it's not anywhere near as bad as it was during that time. I have a good doctor. I'm on medication. I'm doing fairly well, I think.
So it seems that although you did not return with a sixth sense of some sort, there was at least some kind of healing afterwards, would you say?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that, yes.
Fascinating. As you know, depression is said to be uncurable, and that all one can do is attempt to manage it with medication or counseling. But in your case, all it seemed to take was a spiritual entity from the other side saying, hey, choose.
Yeah, basically.
Now, speaking of that entity from the other side, I know you stated earlier about a spirit guide, but do you believe that it could have been angelic or maybe God?
Yeah, when I give it a lot of thought, I'm not sure it was God. I think it was more of a spirit guide or an angel trying to tell me something. That's kind of in retrospect what I think was going on.
So what would you say to others who may be struggling with depression, who feels they may not serve a purpose here, who may be looking to end their lives, knowing what you know now after your experience?
Well, it kind of reminds me of a phrase I heard a long time ago: suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem, because no matter how dark things get or how bleak things get, you know, there's always light after the darkness, you know, and that's what I would tell people. And, you know, if we were just here and we died and that was it, it would be horribly depressing. You know, I really believe in an afterlife. I believe that there's more. There's a happier place, but not to obviously go ahead and commit suicide. That's not what I'm saying. But, you know, for many years, I've been involved in mental health advocacy work, and I try and convince people that, you know, you can have a fulfilling, happy life. You know, there are going to be dark days, but you just battle through that and come out the other side.
So as a mental health advocate, do you ever attempt to give these individuals a clue of what you've been through spiritually?
Well, I try and be sensitive, because I realize that not everybody might believe in an afterlife. I use my own example. I was diagnosed with bipolar 30 years ago, and I also have PTSD. And I've been hospitalized in the psychiatric hospital 5 times. But, you know, I try and use my own story to inspire other people to say, look, you really can survive this. It's not a death sentence. It's not the end of the world. You can come through it, you know.
And I also believe that for someone who's been through a depression, attempted suicide, and someone who's seen that there is more to life than just, you know, here, yet here is where one's purpose is, there's probably no one more perfect than you to advocate for such individuals.
Mm-hmm.
And again, just to go back to that poster's negative comments towards you, as you said, she lost someone due to mental illness, which perhaps out of fear made her read your post in a mischaracterized way. However, other commenters understood and completely came to your defense.
Right. Yeah. And I if anything, I think people with mental disabilities are greeted with even more love in heaven. I don't think, you know, I would never think they would go to hell. That's not something I believe in. I believe that, you know, if anything, they're greeted with more love and compassion in the afterlife.
Not to mention, you were referring to your experience, not what God will or will not do to others in terms of judgment.
Right. I went back and I put an edit on the post saying, you know, in no way am I trying to say that people go to hell because of this. You know, I didn't want people to misinterpret my words or what I was saying.
Well, Tracy, I want to thank you for coming on the show. Many people speak about how if they can do an interview and help one person, then the entire interview was worth it. But I think with the internet, the advent of the internet, and how everything can easily be disseminated across the globe, I think you have the potential to help many people, not only here, but internationally as well.
Oh, great. Kind of like you said, if I can help one person, then I feel like I've kind of done my job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Tracy Ann. And I want to thank you all for tuning in to another episode of Real Spiritual Talk Radio. Please go to my Facebook page, Real Spiritual Talk Radio. There you will find past shows as well as cutting room floor video footage that did not make it into the audio podcast version. Also, check out my YouTube channel. You can search by my name, Lamont Gates. There you will also find similar content. With that said, I hope all of you have been spiritually enlightened, as I always am every time I interview a near-death experiencer. And until next time, Real Spiritual Talk Radio is now signing off.